Okay, we are back, and I feel like this week this is the story of my life. What was that old TV show? This is your life, or something?
Yeah,
They take you on a tour.
this is your life.
Yeah,
No,
you know,
it's this is my story.
Wow. Now you're just,
Oh no,
now
we
you're
got
just
Al
showing off,
singing,
Al.
Yeah.
You're
and he
just
hasn't
showing
even
off.
drank any of Jack's beer yet.
Yeah, we went from all the real estate, which I've been way too involved in, back to now brewing and spirits, and often to all the animals, exotic animals. So, welcome, Jack.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So, Ballast Point Brewing and Spirits. So, this is getting to be a very well-known company. So,
It is. It is.
Jack's one of the most
I got to
popular
pinch myself
guys in
every
town.
day. Here,
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're pretty popular, Jack.
Oh, thanks.
yeah, I think you're probably one of those guys that is trying to set a world record for most friends.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is making beer. It's not like any other business.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of a rock star status to it.
How'd you get started making
fun.
beer?
I started as a homebrewer. I was homebrewing in college. I kind of stumbled across the hobby and was just absolutely fascinated with it. Didn't know that you could make your own beer at home. Started homebrewing in college with my roommate. When I moved, that was at UCLA. When I moved back down to San Diego, I was working for an airline and kind of, what do I really want to do? Grad school, I don't know. But I kept up this.
Before. What do I want to do when I grow up?
Yeah,
Exactly.
right.
And Jack never grows up, so he's just
No,
having fun.
he's drinking beer.
I kept doing this hobby, and I was having to drive long distance to get my supplies. And I thought there might be at least a few other people like me that brewed their own beer at home, and might not want to have to drive so far for their supplies, and have it more specifically focused on beer. A lot of the homebrew shops could focus on wine and other things. So I thought something more centrally located, focused on beer, would be good. So I opened up Homebrew Mart right down there on Linda Vista Road, where it still is today.
And now you've expanded quite a bit. So tell us a little bit about where people can find Ballast Point, and a little bit more about your operation. We're going to have 4 locations. We've just opened our third. We've kind of outgrown. We started at Homebrew Mart down on Linda Vista Road. That was where we just had home brewing for the first 4 years, from 92 to 96. 96, we opened up the brewery, Ballast Point Brewery, attached to it in the back with the tasting bar. We were only operating out of that facility for about 10 years, till about 2006, and we just maxed out the facility. So we went looking for new space, and found a location up in Scripps Ranch. That became our new production facility, and then the Homebrew Mart location became then more specialty beer focused, and homebrew supplies, of course. So we attached the tasting bar to the Scripps Ranch place. Since 2006, we've maxed that place out completely, and we started looking for 2 different types of locations. One, a real small, I guess they call it a nano brewery. We're just using it for experimental purposes to keep the creativity flowing. And we also, since we were maxed as far as production goes, we were looking for a much larger facility. So we're in the process of building a 150-barrel brew house in the Miramar area in 100,000 square feet.
Wow. Well, San Diego is the hub, the
microbrew capital of the world.
Yeah, but you are, without question, the most successful one here in San Diego. What do you think is the secret to your success, really?
I don't know if we're the most successful. There's some other great breweries here in San Diego, and San Diego has a sort of a world-class reputation.
True.
So there's going to be, close to 70, I believe, microbreweries here, or craft breweries here in San Diego coming up pretty soon, and some pretty big ones. We've had some great success. Our brand, I think, because we're attached to Homebrew Mart and we've been building it with those grassroots, have really kind of authentically built our brand. That's kind of our take. We like to be very inclusive about our brand. We're not snobby about beer in general. We like to teach people about it, whatever level they're at. We will help them kind of understand it and maybe experience some different styles if they're interested. So
how do you do that? What's that process?
Someone can come in and want to learn how to homebrew at the Homebrew Mart, and
Okay.
we will have a clerk, a homebrew expert there, kind of walk you through that process at the very beginning, just teach you how to homebrew at home. And also, if you're maybe a little bit more experienced, or if you're just coming to the tasting bar, those guys are going to be very experienced at talking about the style and educating you on the flavor profile, and talking about what
food this beer might pair well with. So we just love that aspect of geeking out on beer
Yeah.
all the time.
That's awesome.
What a
Yeah.
difference from the days we grew up where there was Budweiser and Miller, and now you have everything from and Ballast Point has virtually everything out there. So that's great. So you've expanded into spirits now too, I take it.
We have. We kind of considered it a natural progression from beer. Our head brewer, Yusuf Chernay, he's kind of a do-it-yourself kind of guy. He thought it would be just fun, something to be fun to do. At the time, I kind of wanted to stay focused on beer. I thought we had a lot of work to do still building our brand on beer, but he convinced me that he was pretty knowledgeable about this by now through all the research that he had done and was fascinated by the process, thought it would be cool to be the first one and have a distillery inside a brewery. So we just kind of went with our gut on that and went, well, what we do is make the things that we like and see what happens. So we started it with the small still just making gin inside the brewery. We kind of carved out distilled spirit premises inside the brewery. And now we're making gin, vodka. We're coming out with some flavored vodkas soon.
I like vanilla, by the way.
We haven't gotten to that yet,
Okay.
but we want to be creative, just like we've done. We have dozens and dozens of different types of beers. We want to do the same thing with spirits. But right now we have the gin, the vodka, some flavored vodka soon. We've got our white rum. We've got a barrel-aged rum.
Wow.
We have a single malt, and we have a bourbon. And all of these are award-winning. As a matter of fact, we won the best distillery in California at a New York distilling competition.
Awesome. That's amazing. How do you know when you're
International
onto
distilling.
something? Do you bring in, you develop a flavor profile and then you bring people in to do like maybe a test, study or like a trial on the flavor? I mean, how does that work?
Our kind of motto is that we make what we like. That's where you have to start. Otherwise, you'll end up brewing something that's going to be just mass produced. That's
Yeah,
going
but
to offend the least number of people, and you'll end up with something watered down. And the big guys are very good at doing that. So we're going to make more flavorful stuff. So we're going to be very much making things that are to our personal taste. And then if it sort of strikes a chord with consumers and grows, and that's how we'll do it. So it starts as a homebrew recipe, and then something we'll scale up a little bit at Home Brew Mart, and then if people are just clamoring for it, we'll send it up to Scripps and brew it. Our Sculpin took
So
that.
you have a lot of great tracking systems to see what goes on.
We've got people coming in, tasting our beer all the time, and
That's a tracking system.
Yeah. Well,
oohing
yeah.
and awing over it, or not so much.
Yeah. Yeah, you're listening to Close Up on San Diego Business here on KFSD AM 1450 and financialnewsandtalk.com. I'm your host, Barry Waxler, here with my co-hosts, Andrea Kay and Al Arias, and our guest, Jack White from Ballast Point Brewing and Spirits.
So you guys are also expanding into a restaurant. You've got a new one opening up in Little Italy, right?
We did, kind of by accident. Like I said, we were looking for more of an experimental brewery, just something really small to keep those creative juices flowing and not just be producing lots of barrels of our real successful beers already. It's really, we're home brewers, so that creative aspect is what drives us. So we're looking for something, a fun, small project to do, not necessarily a restaurant attached to it. When we were looking around town at different, real estate options, what we were looking for was a lot smaller. When we found the place on India and Ivy, we were just immediately attracted to it. We just thought, wow, it's such a cool location.
Yeah, it is.
It just evolved into something different. It's a 10,000 square foot facility with some outside space, had room for us to do our experimental brewery, and then also add a kitchen. Plus, we were going to have to get a conditional use permit if we didn't serve ready, made to order food with alcoholic beverages in the little Civic San Diego area. So we
Right,
kind of
right.
went, okay, we are now restaurateurs.
So
But it's worked out
how did you branch into
really
the restaurant side?
So we were kind of forced to do it a little bit. Instead of just doing a tasting bar with this small brewery, that we had to do that or go through the conditional use permit process. So we thought, well, people always ask for food when they come in our places. We are friends with a lot of great chefs in San Diego, and just through all the beer that we've sold to different restaurants and all the beer dinners that we've done. So we asked one of our favorite chefs who he might recommend if he wasn't interested in the job, and he recommended a a guy, Colin McLagan, who was just selling his restaurant. He was the owner, operator, chef, Cordon Bleu trained guy out of Avenue 5. He had just sold that business and was looking just to focus on food and let someone else take care of the ownership and all
Right.
those responsibilities. So the timing was great. It came highly recommended. And he's very collaborative and very talented. And so we're just a few months into it. And really, being a restaurateur, I'm probably an unusual restaurateur because I just have my team that I collaborate with, and I just let them.
What's an example
on
of
the
of a cool food item there that you pair with your beer?
We've tried to make it really eclectic, and it's not always. We don't always have beer in the food, or it doesn't come with beer every time. But we do some classic San Diego stuff. We couldn't avoid doing fish tacos.
There you go. Awesome.
We couldn't
I
avoid
love that.
You can get a burger and fries, a very good burger and fries.
That's my kind of food.
We just changed our menu up, so I haven't actually tasted everything on the menu because he wanted to do something for the new year. But some great seafood options, some fantastic ceviche, house-made
Oh, nice.
Pretzel.
Now he's talking
Fantastic
my
stuff.
language.
Yeah.
Cheddarverse, so
Nice.
really good, classic upscale beer food in a pretty casual atmosphere. So it's a walk up to the counter type atmosphere.
Yeah, and I'm just disappointed in one thing. When we had Javier from Sombrero Mexican Food on, he came in and brought lunch in for us. So we were waiting for some of your Ballast Point samples.
Here's
to come in
Jack
today.
with no
Yeah,
keg. I
you
thought he
know-
was going to roll in with a keg, dang it.
Even us brewers and distillers don't drink all day. You might think that's all we do, but yeah.
Well, we're starting to run short on time, so let's find out how people can find your products, find your breweries, restaurants, what have you. Tell us how we get to you.
Pretty easy. Well, you can come into any of our locations, but the best way to find out about that is to go onto our website, which we've recently revamped. You can find out everything about the company there, ballastpoint.com.
Okay, ballastpoint.com, and they can find where you are.
And your
homebrew supplies
and all your spirits and
all
where
the
they're
spirits.
sold.
Right. You can figure out, you can inquire as to where our stuff is sold. We have our distributors listed there. We don't have all our retail accounts listed there, but you can inquire and we'll get back to you just by emailing us.
Well, the one thing that I haven't heard that I think we need to hear is that your products can be found in many retail locations. Is that
Oh,
correct?
absolutely. All over
Right.
San Diego.
Yeah.
There's we're distributed widely in San Diego, and we're actually distributed kind of worldwide a little bit these days.
Awesome. Wonderful.
Great.
Thanks so much for coming in.
Yeah, thanks, Jack. You're
Thank you.
listening to Close Up on San Diego Business, where we get up close and personal with homegrown San Diego businesses and the people that are working to make a difference in our community. This is financialnewsandtalk.com. I'm your host, Barry Waxler. We'll be right back after the break with more homegrown business close up and Pet Kingdoms with us.